stream. I'm not seeing things looking right. Bear with me here, technical difficulties. Okay, so now I hear the microphone. Hello, everybody. Sorry about the embarrassing start of today. And this sound is bad, so. And I can't see the chat in where I'm supposed to be able to see it. I can see you on my cell phone, though. Please tell me it sounds better. I am looking tired, aren't I? Are any of you suffering with allergies right now? If you are, give me a thumbs up or whatever else you might want to do. Boy, I heard my voice. I'm going to show you guys something else because there were people joining us and asking questions about the octahubes. And I figured, well, I kind of left you guys hanging in last week's episode. I may as well go ahead and show you that this is out of focus. Not great. Still sounds icky, doesn't it? That camera got really messed up somehow. This is like one of the days when I first started going live. Okay, so basically what I have going on here is I have a stabilizer that we call Cover Up, and it has a panda bear that represents it on our website. Still sounds icky. I just banged on the microphone. High-tech adjustment, seeing if it would get rid of that sound. I think it might have worked. The octahubes come like this in a kit if you're not familiar with them, and it is one of the products you can find at creativefeet.com. In the chat, you can see a link to shop, which is takes you to creativefeet.com. Yay, it did work. And then there's Learn, which is take you to the school where a lot of you are already interacting with me. And I know that you guys are just like wanting me to do more right now. And I'm trying really hard to balance all of the people that are wanting things from me right now. So here we go. If you want to get to the point that you see I'm at right here, then watch last week's episode of Fabrically Speaking Live. And I really want to finish this anyway. So here is, we used to have 16 colors of this stabilizer, but it didn't sell that well. And it was costly to have all the different colors in stock. So we have gone to just white, black, and clear of this. But the main reason that is because you can color on this and color on the wrong side, and it traps the ink between the towel and the vinyl, so it will never bleed out or fade. Should you want to have perfect yellow on maybe a purple fabric, this is the way to get it. That's my natural hair, Brenda. Out of control, and it's a windy day. We're at high risk of fire today. Oh, 100-degree weather. So what I have right here is just the vinyl, and it blocks the loops on the terry cloth. And beneath the towel is the octi hoop with the Hold Light stabilizer, which has a hummingbird on the label, and it looks like this. Really lightweight, and you iron it to the towel with the shiny side facing the towel. And now when we go to remove the towel from the stick and tear, which is the stabilizer that we have, that has a frog on it. And you're going to see within the, I'm going on live with no makeup on today. Actually, I think I have a little mascara on this eye and none on that eye. Why'd I call attention to it? So the stick and tear has a tree frog on it because it's got a sticky surface that can move off and move over. So you can reposition your fabric on the stabilizer until you get it perfectly positioned so that you embroider exactly where you want on the garment or whatever it is you're sewing, like this little baby shirt. And then you would just take just that little area that you want to embroider, and then you stick it onto our stabilizer. And that's called floating your fabric, which is a technique my dad invented years and years and years ago when the embroidery machine first came out. And to achieve that, he had to develop a stabilizer that didn't gum up your needle. So that is what I have here, and I won't have any adhesive buildup on my needle. That's why I can go live and sew for 7 hours at shows and never have my needle get sticky, because it just doesn't get sticky. It's nice to have a product that you can count on and one that doesn't drive you crazy. So when I go to remove this towel from the hoop after I'm finished with the embroidery, the stabilizers will be swallowed up in the stitching. But when I go to remove it, the towel would be like stuck to the stabilizer and the loops can pull out. Give me a thumbs up if that's ever happened to you before when using an adhesive back stabilizer. The fusible thin Hold Light, we iron it to the back of the towel, and now this is what's stuck to the stick and tear. So when we go to remove it, it will remove perfectly clean. The towel will not be at risk of having the loops torn out, and no one will know this is in there because it's so lightweight. It just gets swallowed up inside, and it is permanent. All of these stabilizers are permanent, which means that after you wash things, they will not change their appearance, which I'm sure you know how frustrating that can be. So that's what's going on here. And then the octi hoops also have these little holes, and you drop this handle in, and that allows you to rest your hand on the sewing machine surface. You can position the handle into any of all 8 sides of the hoop, rest your hand, and then you draw. So you just take your hand and move your fingers instead of your arms like you might have tried before. And if you're wondering if I'm doing embroidery or free motion embroidery, this is free motion embroidery, which means you all can do it if you have a straight stitch on your sewing machine. And this is looking really messy because I was just showing you how to anchor this stabilizer to the towel. I gotta take my sandal off too. Oh, so if you're wondering why I didn't achieve everything that I said I was going to do last week, I don't know what I did to my leg. And yeah, I hurt myself again. I can't even take my shoe off without lifting my leg right now. It's not my knee, but it is the thigh and the calf muscle, and it's really swollen, so I've been having to keep my leg up. I've been a little bit clumsy. Goodness. That's what happens when you try to have 50 hats on one head, you know. Hello to all of you. I'm sorry I haven't had time to look at the chat. Know that I love you, and I hope you enjoy interacting with one another. The coupon code for the stabilizer is FROG, and I extended it. So those of you who knew that it expired last night, people were having trouble understanding what the coupon was about. So it's any roll height or width, and that is governed by the hoop size that you are using. If you have the octahoops, the best one is the 12-inch roll, but it's really up to you. And you get a 20-foot roll, buy two 20-foot rolls, and you get that for the price of one 20-foot roll. And that is good through tonight, so you have time to use it. Frog, all uppercase letters, is the coupon code. Getting old. In my mind, I'm still like 20-something. I'm going to be candid also. I had my daughter thought that cancer was back. We had this scare on Thursday of last week. And then she got some tests, and then we got the results, and the cancer was clear, but she had to have a mammogram, and so she's clear of cancer. But we went through the whole up and down of all of that too over the last week. So now we're in Jubilee. And she would probably be mad at me for telling this live, but I appreciate any prayers that you can have for our family and the trials that we've been going through of late. And back to this. Here we go. So I'm using a straight stitch, no presser foot on the presser or on the sewing machine. And you could, if you want, use a free motion hopping foot. It looks like this, should you want. But if you are going to use one of those, make sure you use one that has an open front end. It's going to be much easier for you. And one that's got this spring-loaded behavior. And just to top it off, one of my daughter's oldest friends, who I call my other daughter, has a brain tumor. So she's going to be going under surgery soon. And that is also on my mind and in my heart right now. So if you could pray for her, that would be great. All right, I'm going to stop bringing you down. I hope I'm not. Miracles happen every day, right? I really got to get this chat up. If I can get it to come up. I feel like this was right. Let's see. It's got to be right. Come on, open chat. Okay, there we go. Now I can see the chat. Yay. Okay. All right. Here we go. So what you want to do is you want to get some of this attached to the towel in little sections. It doesn't look really pretty. That's what I did here, these little circles in the middle. So on the same thing on here, we can go up on to the point and then just kind of divide it into little segments. And before we are finished and we go to remove this, we're going to cut through it by going straight stitching around the edge in really tight stitches, which is me holding that and moving my hand really slow as the machine runs. I'm going to go ahead and go all the way around and sectioning off to anchor the cover up to the towel. Oh, and I'm sewing really fast, faster than the camera can keep up with. So if it looks weird to you on the screen, that's simply frames per second ratio, and the internet is not capable of keeping up with the full speed of this. And I'm going to try to finish this whole thing so that you'll learn how to monogram as well. Nice thing about embroidery with a regular sewing machine is this machine has 1,700 stitches per minute. What What, the thread break? Oh, the bobbin's almost empty. Don't you hate it when the bobbin runs out? Ah. And it won't let me sew until it's finished without having that sad face every 5 seconds. Hello, Amy. Hello, Brenda. I know I saw some names I didn't recognize. Hi, Wendy. And hi, Lorinda. Charlotte. Hi, Charlotte. And I don't know if Francine is in here or just hiding and not saying anything. Hello to all the lurkers that don't like to participate in the chats. And just know that I had mentioned, I think that's where my trash is. I had mentioned last week that I was going to make it so all the VIPs get access to the members part of YouTube. And the members part of YouTube is kind of like a monthly thing and you can cancel at any time. And so I just got to figure out how to do it. No matter what, you will be getting everything that the members on YouTube get. It's definitely better to get more connected with me anyway and join in the school. So just know that you'll be getting everything they get and more. So you guys want this exact pattern so that you can do it with me? I had makeup on this morning, but my eyes started watering from whatever it is in the air. I have a white bobbin on right now, but I'm going to change to a black bobbin of the lingerie thread. That's the kind of thread I use in the bobbin for this. For the monogram and for the dark color threads that I incorporate into this to give it more dimension rather than just yellow. I can go in and bring in a peach and a rusty color to create a more realistic sunflower design. And I could take longer than I should to do that. I'm trying to keep the show to an hour long, but I'm gonna just follow whatever I feel like today. What do you guys feel like? Do you want me to keep going till it's done? To do that, I need to talk less to you guys by looking at the screen and sew faster. So I wish I could play music for you when I'm live, but they have all the copyright restrictions. But all I did was change my bobbin, so I can pull my bobbin thread up now by doing one stitch. So I just need to bring my bobbin thread up through the fabric, and you do that by lowering the presser foot even though there's no foot on. Do one stitch and then grab your bobbin thread. And you can see that the bobbin thread is considerably thinner. I don't know if you can see that. The white thread is considerably thinner than the yellow thread, and that's what we want. We want to have less bulk on the bottom so we can apply more thread to the top. But having the color be there means we don't have to have as much color. We want to get rid of those tails so you don't get distracted while you're sewing. The more you participate by talking to one another and doing emojis, sharing with anyone you might think might be interested in this, that kind of stuff, that really helps our channel. Thumbs ups, and there's also super chat capability. That just helps fund the cost of bringing these shows to you. Okay. See how much faster it goes when I'm going full speed on the machine? And I have the control to do this because my elbows are down on the sewing machine, on the table, and my hand is on the machine rather than being up and lifting and trying to guide that way. This is why I can go so fast as I'm steering with my fingers, and just as you would steer with a pen, and moving just a little bit at a time. Watch. So as I'm doing this, the distance I can travel is the length of my fingers, which is also partly why I like to use a smaller hoop on the top when I can. Now say I wanted to embroider a big full-size beach towel and I wanted to go way beyond what a regular embroidery machine can sew in a sewing field, or if you don't know about how that works, if their hoop is this big, that's as big as the embroidery machine can sew at one time. So then they have to re-hoop it. And we do the same thing, but we just pull it off, put on more stabilizer and lay it down, and we don't have to worry about lining anything up because we are the ones drawing. We are the embroidery unit. So right now my feed dogs are up, by the way. And I can go ahead and draw in a straight stitch. I'm just coloring it in using the same movement you would move with a marker, just going up and down, using just your fingers to steer that movement, that bending of the fingers. That's what I'm doing here with this little handle, just moving my fingers. So those of you who have the OctiHoops and you have yet to use them, because I know there's some of you doing that are in that category, the best way to learn is to create something that you don't care about. There's no pressure. So you can, for instance, if you have a dog and just need a towel for your dog after the bath, or want to embroider on something to put his dog treats in when you take him for a walk. That would be a perfect opportunity to embroider something. And you can use, as I showed last week, a coloring book for your patterns. So now I'm at full speed. And in this instance, I also cannot see the needle moving so fast that it's just not possible for your eye to follow the stitches. And what you're seeing here are two different effects that I've created. This is a straight stitch only, movement up and down, and it's pretty. But then you see this stitch, how it's really big and goes at the angle of the petal. This is almost, I'm making them into leaves looking. Oops, oh well. So to get that look, after doing the straight stitch, you slow your machine down and you just move the hoop in a zigzag motion. So this is not a zigzag stitch. It's a zigzag movement of my fingers just going like this. Move, 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 move. And the hoop moves automatically along with it, or the fabric gets carried along for the ride. And it's so relaxing because you're going so slow. But if you were to lose control, if you were to move your hoop in the wrong way, then you'd have a stitch way out in the wrong place. So you look where you want your needle to come down, not where your needle is at, and just keep kind of, if you have the ability to see both the left and the right at the same time, that's much better on your brain. There's only a certain speed that I can do with this. It has to be slow or I get dizzy. I'm also better at this when I'm not talking. Oops, I broke a needle. And I'm going to tell you how I broke that needle, so you're not freaking out over it. My thread had gotten some slack and I pulled it down and I wasn't careful about it. So I actually set my cone down on my thread. Have any of you ever done that? Like, I would like to break my needle, so I'm going to put the cone down on the thread. Someone's got rain. What kind of rain do you got? I'll tell you what, I know someone in Arkansas and she's like, it's been buckets. So what is a good needle for this? My favorite needle is the super universal, and know that I will be getting the needles back in. Right now we have limited inventory. So a universal 9014, super universal 9014, top stitch needle, stretch needle. These are all needles that would embroider very well on this. And the one that I had on was a 7511, which was really thin. Now that's not to say you can't embroider something thicker with a 7511. I used a 7511 stretch needle to embroider through 1/4 inch thick rawhide, and I did an eagle head, which sold for close to $1,000 back when I was teaching free motion embroidery in my parents' store when I was about 18 years old, before I invented anything. And the whole time I was doing the embroidery classes, I was feeling like there's got to be an easier way so that everyone could be good at this, because some people would be so discouraged thinking they just are not good enough at free motion to achieve it. Have you ever felt that way? If you have, say something in the chat, talk about it. Let's support one another. Every time I think about it, I don't have any makeup on. I'm like, okay. You guys don't care, I know. You're wondering what that was? That's a needle threader, and this is the Baby Lock Crescendo sewing machine that I'm using. Now, because I didn't cut my bobbin thread, I don't have to bring it up, but I do have to lower the foot. So you still have to lower the presser foot assembly, even though there's no foot on there. And the reason I don't have to bring the bobbin thread up is because I didn't cut it when I broke the needle thread. That's enough. Now I can cut that. Now, a lot of times people think how awful, I broke a needle. It's so frustrating. But if you don't break a needle, if your needle bends instead of breaks, you're at risk of damaging the under workings of your sewing machine, which is why I don't recommend the titanium needles, because titanium needles are more likely to bend rather than break. And they actually temper the needle to break in a certain position. So what you're seeing me do here is just the zigzag without the stitching on the underside. I'm trying to show you different varieties of looks you can get, all with a straight stitch in any sewing machine. I really think I could get hypnotized by someone if I was embroidering using the zigzag movement, because remember, this is not a zigzag stitch, just a straight stitch. It's only me that makes the hoop move. And I'm not steering with the hoop. I'm steering with this little handle using my fingers, just going left, right, and that's a zigzag stitch. When you get a loop like that, you just pull the thread back toward the spool to get that slack to go back in, and then you continue. So let's look. Which one do you like better? Do you like the stitch beneath before the zigzag, the straight stitch only, or the zigzag stitch without the stitch beneath? And you can see this one lifts up higher, and that's because we didn't flatten it out with the straight stitch first. Do you like that puffy? Or since it's a flower, should it be lower than the leaf? Think about these kind of things as you go. We want this to be puffy, right? Because this is a thicker object on the flower. If you can color in a coloring book, and that's why it's so good to use the cover up, because you color before. So you're actually doing what you already did. If you color thinking you're the needle, when you're drawing in the actual design, you're actually rehearsing for the embroidery part. And the reason you're able to draw better than if you're not the one having to create the actual design and you're just coloring it in, The reason you draw well is because you're putting your elbows and hands down and supporting your upper body while you embroider. I like the puffy one too. But what's really cool about this is the stitch direction and the stitch technique that you choose will also give the appearance of sunlight playing on different petals in different way, creating a shadow effect. So if we want some petals to look closer, then I would use the puffier one. And if you want them to look like they're dropping into the shadow, and you can even do like a shadowy stitch right close to the big part here, and then have it extend out. Well, the puffy is a little bit slower to stitch in the movement of the machine, but it does cover more area with every stitch because we're pulling the thread so far from left to right. Without the octahoops, if you tried to move your hoop or your fabric like this, you'd be breaking a lot of needles. The hoop design, the shape of it, that octagon shape, is why the fabric is kind of just trapped and lays flat and all relaxed. If you can get that, that's what I'm trying to imply here, how this fabric is just laying there. And the reason this movement left to right, which normally would, the thread tension would be pulling, and it is still pulling. I'm not changing thread tension. But as I move from left to right with a tight tension, which I didn't even lower it, and I do normally recommend you go from a, whatever your normal thread tension is, drop it one number. I didn't do that. That also could have played into the broken needle that I got. So I'm going to go ahead and lower it now. My normal tension is 3 or 4.0, so I've just lowered it to a 3.0. So the tension discs are holding steady the whole time I'm embroidering. There's no embroidery machine unit, and there's no computer program saying the hoop's going to move this way, lower the tension. And that's what happens in an embroidery machine. Depending on the trajectory of the embroidery unit or the hoop, the tension of the sewing machine is part of the program of the stitch, and it reduces the tension and lightens the tension based on the hoop movement, so you're less likely to break threads. On a regular sewing machine, there isn't any little computer or any little fairy in there changing tension. It is the hoop's shape that gives you the strength. That eight shape angle that makes it stronger than a circle and stronger than a square. It's just stronger, and so the fabric can be weaker and not have any trouble. All right, so let's think about things you need to know. When you're embroidering with an embroidery machine, the sewing machine tells you when to change color. And sometimes you're like, but I don't want to change the color right now. It sure looks like you could sew it right now. And it's like, I don't care what you have to say about the matter. This design was designed that you must change your color right now, and you lose track of which color is next. And so with the octahoops, because you are the steerer and you are the designer, you don't have to change your thread color as often. Now this one is going to be trickier because the monogram is going to be going over it. I'm going to do the straight stitch. Also because I want the S, I want the word summer to stick up higher than the flower. Yes, the embroidery machines have little fairies inside. Well, it's kind of like that. They're changing the tension for you. Also, the embroidery machines slow the machine down as well. It'll go slower when you're doing a big side-to-side motion like that. When the hoop moves in a zigzag motion, that machine will slow down. And that's all to protect you from breaking needles and thread. So if I want to have some of this leaf stick up, to have it graduate from that petal to this petal without looking like I messed up somehow, I'm going to go ahead and do part of it. Copy. But we have the under stitching underneath that, so it will be like a middle level. That makes sense? Gotta pay attention to what direction your stitches should go. You can also use a pen and like a ballpoint pen, which I thought I had. Oh, here we go. And you could draw little arrows to try to help you to remember which way to move the hoop. So if you have a design that you want that to go straight, you can draw some lines with a pen that irons away or washes away. And then you know that your needle must follow that path. It's kind of why I did these little anchor stitches in the direction I wanted the stitch to continue to be on each petal, so that I can space out as I go around this part, because you do kind of get caught up in the movement of the needle. So see how that needle is swinging now at almost the same angle as what I did on the anchor stitches. Someone's got a purple green crying face, it says. Why did I add the word summer before? This is basically the design that I'm going to sew. Now I know where the letters are going to fall, and if I have a lot of thread underneath those letters, that's a lot of bulk and you're likely to break a needle over that. So that is partly why I have it on there. Say we're going to do a cat, embroider a cat. And the cat has whiskers and it has the little slit in the eye. You still want to have that on your design so that you know where those are going to be. And then you decide, when should I put those on? Should I do it first and risk covering them up? Or should I do all those outlines just like I would with a crayon, go in after you do your embroidery and finish it up by making nice clean lines? So that is what I do. I think about my fine details. I want them on there, but I also want them to not have a bunch of thread on them when I come around to do it. So I will actually think of this as a line on either side of the line. I will not embroider in that line until it's time to do that actual accent color. Getting there. So I'm going to do the under because these are lower, so that it doesn't just suddenly look like, what'd she mess up right here? I don't know. The reason also that I don't break needles is because I don't hold the hoop. So with all the other free motion hoops that are out there, you hold the hoop and there's a risk of lifting it while you're sewing. And if you accidentally lift or tip that hoop while you're running the machine, the needle has no chance. It's going to break. So the resting, the very light movement of this makes it so easy to keep going that you might get lost in your embroidery and find out a few hours later that you're still embroidering. Whereas in the past, before I developed this hoop, you could get your hands really sore. This hand's just laying there, just as it would on a piece of paper. And this is the hand doing the work, except for I don't have to squeeze it and I don't have to push down against the table with it because it's not a pen and there is no ink in there to release. So it's just very relaxing. Now I'm going to go over with the zigzag movement again. Ugh. Something caught my thread again. That bobbin winder. Wish they didn't have the bobbin winder knife on their bobbin winder. Have any of you ever got your thread caught on your bobbin winder? It's less likely to happen unless you have our thread dispenser, which is what's making it so that my stitches are more consistent and I don't have to have thread breakage as often. The thread dispenser is allowing my thread to come off the spool with zero tension, which is also why I can do these wide stitches without the needle breaking, because the tension on the thread is as loose and as consistent as possible when nothing is conflicting with the spool's release of the thread. Is this making any of you sleepy? Now I'm just kind of pushing and banking, like tap, tap, tap. So when I have to edit my own videos, I fall asleep a lot. So I talk myself to sleep. I've had people tell me that they put my videos on to help them go to sleep at night. And I'm like, well, that is not what I intend. Have any of you, I don't know if I want to know, have any of you done that? Listen to me until you fall asleep. All right, here we go. 2 more petals. And when you're looking at this, think, does it all look like the same yellow, or does it look like different colors of yellow? There were several times I was gonna go live and do this during the week on outside of the normal Fabrically Speaking live session, but I'm just not ready to have a lot of extra videos this week. I'm getting there though. A lot of things to catch up on. Guilty. Lorinda stays awake for me. Thank you, Lorinda. I don't mind if you fall asleep to my voice. It's okay. It's a good thing I don't all of a sudden get really loud and boisterous when I talk, right? Or use those bells, and people use like horn noises, different special effects while they're live. All right, we are on the last petal. But it's kind of plain, just yellow. So then next thing that I would do is go ahead and get the light color from here and so that I can do all the petals and then do the lighter peachy color in here. The last thing I'll do is what? What do you think the last step is of the whole thing? This leg is still hurting. So now I'm going to cut my needle thread, and I don't like pulling up my bobbin thread any more than I have to. So you raise the foot and slide the thread out and cut the needle thread only. It's calming. And now I raise the foot and take the thread out. And I've already got my color picked out. Kind of a orangey peachy color. And these spools are designed to feed up. So if you don't have a thread stand like my thread dispenser here, you could put it in a coffee cup and bring it up, and then take a popsicle stick, glue or tape a safety pin to the end of it, have the back end of the safety pin with the circle part stick out past the popsicle stick. Tape it with painter's tape onto your machine so that it extends out past your hand wheel so that the thread doesn't get caught in your hand wheel. And then you'll have a makeshift thread dispenser while you do embroidery and have a lot less trouble with shredding of the thread above the eye of the needle. That's what we all used to do before the thread dispenser. And this is the bobbin winder that gets caught sometimes. So I generally will lift up my other spool holder and go behind it so it doesn't get caught. And I just continue to thread the machine as if the thread is on the sewing machine. And so that always confuses people because the thread is on the machine, but the spool is not on the machine. If you have a cone or any spool of thread and you have a vertical spool pin, those two that go up, and you put a spool on that, when the take-up lever pulls down, it has to spin the whole weight of that spool, which causes inconsistent tension and causes thread to break and thread to shred. So now I'm using the needle threader again. I always feel like applauding. When I was younger, I was like, I don't need a needle threader. I said, now I love it. Okay, so I have the lighter color of that, which is what's here already. And I'm going to go ahead and use this as a shading color for my petals. Cut that. And when I shade, back in the day, we used to do portrait embroidery. I taught how to, I had people embroider a mime. It was a clown, in case you don't know what a mime is. And then we started evolving into, I'd have people print on paper their photographs of people, and how we could get the contours of the face and everything was to use a straight stitch. So the straight stitch back then was the advanced technique. Now the zigzag stitch is the advanced technique because of the octahoops making it feel like coloring. Before, we used to have to hold the hoop, get our fingers right next to the needle to keep the fabric from lifting with the needle. All those things are gone, and now it's just really relaxing. So if you've tried embroidery in the past, back in the day, or using old wooden hoops, you should really give it a try because it is so much fun. And it takes stress away. It's definitely one of my favorite things, is if you can't tell from looking at my videos. This thing is not supposed to, you don't have to know what I'm dealing with. Here we go. I got these brand new glasses, by the way. They're in a bag. I have my other, yeah, I have my old reading glasses. It's a good idea to use glasses when you're doing the shading part, so you know you've covered it. So I'm just gonna kind of outline the petal, and I want to refine the tips of the flowers. Make them pointy. If you sit there too long, you'll start to hear thumping, and you're at risk of the needle breaking from going through all the layers of thread. I don't know how well you can hear the thumping sound, but it does occur here. This camera, or my microphone, is set to capture my voice and not the sewing machine as much. You see, I do have my hand over here right now. And that's kind of a habit. If you're looking where you want to embroider and not looking at your fingers, you won't sew over your fingers. So look where you're at. And you don't have to have your hands here. I'm going to move it back now so you can see I don't need to. If it starts getting too thumpy because you got so much thread, remember you can get one of these feet and put it on. Would you guys like me to put this on for a little bit? So you can see. Get a little thick. So we raise the foot and attach. And you need to use a screwdriver to tighten that foot, because the banging of the spring-loaded system on the needle bar and it bouncing makes that foot easy to loosen up while you're sewing. Have any of you ever had your free motion foot fall off while you're sewing? Yeah, it's similar to outlining, except for it's shading, because we're drawing. But now on an embroidery machine, would the shading part of coming in be called an outline stitch? My mom and dad were the Hoop It All company, and they were the experts in embroidery machine. So I only use an embroidery machine if I have to. I prefer to do the actual work myself because I'm a fine artist, and you can also take embroidery designs that your machine has, embroider it with your embroidery machine, then re-hoop it into the Octahoop and add more definition and make your work look better than everybody else's, because you've enhanced it with artistic shading and increased its dimension as a result. If you want to see my artwork, it's at clairerowley.com. I also do pet portraits. Brenda has one of my pieces. I was honored to paint her sweet little Dixie, a little Yorkie. So yeah, so now I'm feeling like, would you guys like me to show you how to embroider your own animals? Maybe we should have that as a little mini course inside of the school. So now I don't have to worry at all about my needle breaking, because the foot's not going to allow the fabric, no matter how thick the thread is, it will not allow that fabric to lift up with the needle. And for those of you who didn't watch last week, this was held down by just straight pins. I just pinned in four corners and then anchored it by stitching through it, and then removed the pins. It's gonna go on full speed now, which is about 500-600 stitches faster per minute than an embroidery machine can stitch. Now when I do the monogram, I can actually go around with a lighter purple and a dark purple and create a shadow. So everything you can do on paper, you can do on fabric with the Octahoop. Look at the pointy curve with the petals. You can also spin the whole thing around and sew in any direction you want, as long as you've got your hand on the crayon in a way that feels good to you. This design is small enough to where I'm not feeling the need to move around. If you do a larger design, know that that option is available to you. That's why even a featherweight is able to do this. So much better when I'm quiet. I can zoom, zoom, zoom when I'm not saying anything. Takes, isn't it starting to look pretty with those extra colors? And at the end, I could even go in with a really, really, really light, brighter yellow to create highlight. Entirely up to you. But every layer that you add increases increases the beauty. It gives it more dimension. Something is making a funny noise on the machine. And why does it sound funny here? Interesting. Makes me wonder if there isn't something below the towel. Well, I lost my train of thought because it sounds different all of a sudden. So whenever the machine sounds different, I immediately go into, is the needle going to break? Look at my thread, make sure that nothing is, especially when you go really fast, sometimes your thread can grab another thread. Okay, we're back here into the center of the flower, and I don't want to do too much with this color because I want to use it as a highlight color. Now I'm doing just little circles, which is just like writing a 0 or an O. And I have my hand on the machine holding onto that and just doing little tiny circular movements. There are a lot of different types of sunflowers. But in the center are what? Sunflower seeds, right? Should I keep going, or are you guys falling asleep? Did I put you guys to sleep? Raising the foot, pulling the thread away from the needle, and cutting the needle thread without cutting the bobbin thread would be my normal practice. But I'm thinking it might be time to go with the darker color on the sunflower. Or I could do the leaf. So the leaf would use the lighter bobbin, and this is what I'm doing. I'm thinking, okay, what color thread am I going to use? Am I going to go with the darker tones? If I am, I want to use a darker bobbin. Generally, I have the white, black, and I use a gray sometimes. And that's pretty much it. So you don't have to keep changing your bobbin thread. And I already have a bobbin wound. I like giving you guys a choice because that keeps you guys awake. So should I do the leaf first or finish the flower before I do the leaf? And I can do that because the flower sits over the leaf. The leaf would normally have been done first because it's behind or the furthest thing from the design. So if I'm painting with paint, I do that. I look at the background and I go background to front. Except for sometimes when I break all my rules. So do the leaf. Nobody's awake. I'm going to do the leaf. Because of time, every time I have to change a bobbin, it takes a little bit of time. And that will be the last thing I use anyway, is a darker bobbin. If you want to make sure that you don't have any color other than the color that the thread is on, that you have on top intended to use on top, then wind a bobbin of the exact same color, and you can do that. But remember that you're going to, if you have a thick embroidery thread, you want to use a thinner color on the bottom if you can. Otherwise, you get the chance of having your needle break because you have too much thread piling up on the back side of the towel or whatever it is you're embroidering. thread dispenser changes everything. I have people that go, you know, I took years to buy your thread dispenser, and I can't believe I took that long. And this is the thread dispenser right here. So I have my green spool right here on this little cone, and I take it up through a little eye hook and then come to the machine. Now, if you're really in a hurry and you're getting to professional level of embroidery, you can thread up to 3 threads through the eye of one needle. Yes, you can. And that means you're laying down 3 stitches at one time. It also means that you can't sit there as long as you normally would. If I want to make a flag, like if you want to make a flag for your yard, you can use 3 threads through the eye of one needle. Then you're having less needle strikes. That means the fabric is stronger, less likely to tear in the wind as the wind flaps that flag around. So I have the green thread on. And it's not the same color green, but that doesn't matter. And I have this foot on, but I don't need it right now. Now, one of the pretty things about a sunflower leaf is that the leaves are wider, and then they taper down, and they kind of are ruffly. So to create that ruffly effect, we want to, where it would be puffy, we can do really slow stitches and then make the stitches really big. I don't even think embroidery machines go this far. That's a 7, that's like a 20 millimeter wide swing. I'm going to anchor it a little bit closer, mostly because if someone's finger got caught in there, it would, it makes the towel not as fun to use. So I'm going to break it into 2 stitches to go across that stance. So like 7 millimeter, 7 millimeter. Now it's tapering. And with a zigzag stitch, you would have to taper. But with a straight stitch, which is what I'm using, I'm able to taper by just moving the hoop with my little handle, which is over here. So I can get you in my line of sight with the handle. There we go. I really got to get a better camera angle for this. So I'm breaking that big stance into 2 sections. And this ink that's underneath here, it's never going anywhere. So it will actually enhance the embroidery. Adding like that under or that darker shading color. If you want, you could cover it completely up so no one can see it. But should any of the threads break or anyone get their nose really close up to your embroidery, they're not going to be able to tell that that isn't the thread. Now this is a lower area in the ruffle of the hoop. So I'm going to do straight stitches and just drop it in to lower the stitch into the texture, overall texture. And now I'm going to go back to the bigger, fluffier look again. It's also easier to see the gaps between your stitches when you move the hoop away from you and toward you, away from you and toward you, away from you and toward you. So you can see that you're lining up the stitch right next to the other stitch. Keep that in mind as you're embroidering as well. However, it is one of the most vulnerable directions of the embroidery for the anatomy of the needle to withstand the movement of the hoop. So you just want to make sure you slow your machine down when you're doing these really big stitches. And some of those stitches were up to 12 millimeters long. Really, really long stitches, but creates that really, really high look. And now we have the lower look, and I can enhance that even further by going with a darker color green in there. And ultimately, all that purple is just going to be gone. You won't even see it. And that's why it's okay to use a permanent marker. Now we're back to the lower level of the shape of the leaf. And you can't hit the hoop because the design is stuck inside of the perimeter of the hoop. So if you're ever afraid that you might strike that hoop that's under there, wherever you put the sticker or wherever you put the design is where you're going to be stitching. So as long as you don't have the design sitting on the hoop, there's no risk of that. I could and will likely go in with a darker green and cover up all the purple. Now we're back to a fluffy part. So I slow the machine down and do bigger stitches. And this whole leaf, I'm having the design or the stitch direction go all to the same point. They're all pointing to that direction. If I switch now and move my hoop this way and start going up and down, it's going to look really weird. So stitch direction is an important part of the embroidery process. Going over the lines with a straight stitch that drops that down into the fluff of the thread that I stitched before. And now we're going to fluff this up again, bigger stitch, which is just me moving the hoop in a bigger movement with a lower speed on the machine. As everything you see here is a straight stitch. This is a straight stitch, regular sewing machine, no embroidery in it. This is the octi hoop, and it's the shape of the octi hoop that makes it so that we can move the hoop in these big stitches without it getting tight and puckered up. Trying to keep the leaf in the same direction. I was tempted to turn it. If I did that, it would change the look of everything. So I now am going to taper. In other words, the width of the stitch or the distance of the stitch is going to gradually get bigger as it goes out there and tapers down or tapers out in size. And this is what you do in monogramming too. You have tapered stitches. So this is a straight stitch. I'm about 13 millimeters. And there we go. So remember I said when you're going front and back, the anatomy of the needle is most vulnerable. And I was about to say, it's a little far. I should break it into 2 stitches. And that's the machine's alarm system to stop you from sewing, but something got caught on the thread too. So my foot assembly for the snap-on is what it got caught on, and that increased thread tension. It's getting long in the show, right? What time is it? 3:14. Well, that's 2 broken needles. Hey, Amy, are you keeping track? That's 2 broken needles for 2025 on one project. So what this is teaching you is you can push it. You can see how long of a stitch you can do without the thread breaking. But when you move your hoop that far, it's still got to pull the thread through the machine, and that increases the thread tension just by you doing that. So I should have broken it, and I was about to say, now that it's that long, I'm going to break it into 2 stitches, but I didn't get to. I also am not using the right needles. So you wish you had a thread dispenser? Well, they're in stock, ready to go out. So putting my needle on the machine. I got a little bit brave because I have the foot on, and when you have a free motion foot on, you can be a little bit more brave. I just feel like it's not happy. Shouldn't be that tight. Oh, that is something you need to know. When you change your thread color, you also need to raise the foot, and because it opens the tension discs. If you don't raise the presser foot and before you go to thread your needle, then the thread will just, it won't be held by the tension discs and it will just fall to the back side and you'll end up with loops on the bottom. Have any of you ever had the loops appear on the bottom? People call it the bird's nest. Have you ever had a bird's nest underneath your fabric before? There's several reasons that can happen, and they're all your fault. So I'm usually really easy on you guys and go, it's not your fault, it's not your fault. So then the first reason you can get loops on the bottom is not raising the foot when you change your color, which is really easy to do when you aren't using a foot. What is going on? There we go. The second reason you can have loops on the bottom is the take-up lever, the arm that goes up and down. If you have a machine where you have to thread it through there and you miss it, then you don't know it's not on there, and it will also fall to the bottom and become loopy. Another way to have your loops appear on the backside is by turning the hand wheel backwards instead of forward. And then the thread falls off of the little arm that goes up and down, which is called your take-up lever. All right. Have you been seeing the birds I've been sharing on Facebook? I saved some baby quail the other day, or a week ago. It's some teeny weeny little quail babies. Something feels weird in here. All right, back to this. It's cute how the daddy quail birds take the babies for walks every day. And we had some tiny, tiny quail. They were so small. They looked like little walnuts rolling around on the ground. That's how small they were. And Dad took them for a walk and they fell into a storm drain. And he was calling them and trying to get them to come out. So I got the neighbors involved and we all worked together to get the babies out of the drain. So 1, 2. You can also break it into just do half of the leaf if it feels too much for you to do one stitch and then continue traveling down on the fabric. Something is feeling like something's back there. Too much bobbin thread probably. So you can also just break a long distance into 2 halves, but try not to make it a straight line. You want to feather it out. So you would do some stitches smaller than others. Does that make sense? If it does, give me a thumbs up. So now I'm going to finish this part right here. Does it make you guys feel good when I break a needle? That shows people would go, oh my God, you break needles too. That makes me feel good. There's definitely something catchy on the backside of right now over here. We'll find out after I'm done about. I know it's not the towel because I have the towel clipped with clips to keep it from unrolling and getting caught underneath the embroidery. Okay, I'm going to be going to the darker shades now, so I'm trying to remove the bobbin, put in a darker bobbin. Now I cut the bobbin thread, and you can just lift the foot and slide it out. Amazing how much bobbin thread I used. And this is the nylon lingerie bobbin thread. It has a really nice sheen to it. It's very soft, doesn't scratch you. Better than polyester in the bobbin, as it is stretchy. It stretches out and comes back to its original shape, and so it increases tension just by using it. And this is what's going on for those of you who are walking in now. Have the stick and tear stabilizer stuck to the back of the octi hoop. On the back of the towel, we have hold light stabilizer to keep it from getting stuck onto the stick and tear. So this is stuck to that instead of the towel being stuck to that. So when we go to remove it from the hoop, we won't have the terry cloth loops getting pulled out. And then on top here, we have our cover up, which is the Panda Bear stabilizer that you find at creativefeet.com. At the top of the chat, you'll see shop, and it'll take you right there. Right now we have a coupon called Frog, all uppercase Frog, to give you buy one, get one free on the one that is attached to the back of the hoop, the one you'll use the most of. I've never had so much trouble remembering that I have to thread my needle. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? Oh, I changed thread. No, I didn't. I didn't change the color. So I just undid what I did, which was take the thread out of the needle. Then you raise the foot, and that opens the discs. On this machine, I have a button. So if you don't have a button to raise your foot, you just raise the foot. Then pull the thread out of the machine after removing it from the eye of the needle. I was thinking that purple would be a really cool thing to put in the middle as the dark color and then have it be the monogram. And I can also use it for the leaf and make this a quicker video rather than changing to a darker green. And I know how much some of you love purple, so I don't think you're going to mind if I use purple for this. So now I take the threads, put it on the thread dispenser on one of the two vertical posts, take it up through the eye hook. And if you have any thread like this type of spool, this brand of thread, any of the threads that are like this, what you do is you take the thread and you go on the spool holder, come up and then go around one of the wooden posts, and it'll stop a lot of the skipping, looping, shredding of the thread that occurs by the design of that spool, causing issues with it going through the tension assembly. Purple's good. Okay, so if I didn't raise my foot when I threaded the needle, I'd get bird's nest. And if I don't lower the foot, I will get bird's nest. So you can see how mindless embroidery becomes after a while. You change thread a lot. And you get just into the embroidery and having so much fun, you can forget the rules. And purple is a good color for shadow. Pull a little bit up the leaf. I'm going to cut that thread because I'm wanting to forget about it. And then I'll be distracted by it. I'm going to do little circles in here. And what's inside of a sunflower? Sunflower seeds. And sunflower seeds are round and they have shadows. So that's what this is, a sunflower seed shadow. Sunflower seed shadow. And what we're practicing now is how to do pebbles on a quilt. Same thing on a quilt. You do circles. And to get them to look good, you do 2 circles and then you go where they join together, like where they come together, like you see here, and you drop your next circle in the V of the 2 circles that you already drew. And because this is a sunflower, they'd probably all be the same size, except for if the sunflower is tipped and the sun is shining a certain way, they wouldn't all be the same. So don't worry so much about having all of the circles be the same. So all that messy looking is starting to look like it's not so messy anymore. And I can take a walk over to here and then instead of just pulling my thread over and having to cut the thread over there. So I'm doing straight stitches and just moving over to the area I want to be at. Sometimes you'll go up higher to create variations. Having fun. Oh no, I don't like how that looked. Yeah, I do. You know why? Because if you are not consistent, if you don't try to be perfect, and you sometimes go outside of the line like that, nobody knows that it wasn't part of the design to begin with. But, you know. See how I'm varying the size of the circle? They don't have to be perfectly round, because what does a sunflower seed really look like? Is it round or is it more of a oval? Am I making any of you want sunflower seeds right now? By changing the shape, changing the direction of the circles, it gives it that a look as if the flower, you're not looking at the flower straight on, you're coming at it slightly at an angle. I always want to think about where the sunlight is coming from. Where is the sunlight coming from, you guys? Where is it coming from? Is it coming from here? It is. So everything on this side would be darker than everything on this side. Now, if I were not using the octaves, my hands would be so sore right now. Not going over the circles as much on this side, which instead of having like 3 stitches to go around each circle, I'm only doing one time around. And now without even changing my color of thread, it looks like I have a lighter color up here. And you could go further and switch to a lighter shade of purple to create the shadows on the petals on this side. Every time you change your thread, it increases the speed or the time you spend on your design. And if you lay too much thread, it increases your chance of breaking a needle. That's your learning curve. I'm going to go all the way around the leaf. And I'm going really slow in my hand movement so that there's lots of needle strikes. So that when I go to pull this away, it's going to tear clean away. Stuff's starting to fall off my table because I'm sewing so fast. And I want it to look like an outline stitch this time. Kind of like a cartoon. I'm not using a zigzag stitch though, just a straight stitch. I'm not even using a zigzag movement. And artistically, it will look it'll cause this to look okay with that. And I could go all the way around all of these, which I'm leaning toward wanting to do. You guys get to vote. You see, in order for me not to have to do a carryover stitch, I drew my way over to the leaf on this petal. So I have to decide, am I okay with just these two petals having the purple go around them? Or do I want it to be out all the way around? Vote. Outline. Should I outline it all, or should I just have it be on the leaf? You guys get to have a vote. And this is me acting like I'm doing an outline stitch as well for this, even though I did the thread color shading, or the thread stitch shading. You guys want outlines? All right. And when you outline something and you put all that work into it and you really like how it looks, and now you're going with the dark contrasting thread against a light color, you're going to see it a lot more. So this would be easier for you to do as a beginner before you get your confidence, before you accept that it is okay to not be perfect when you outline. You might want to go with a lighter color thread than something so contrasting. Or not. Go for it. So here I'm outside of a line. If I really want to outline, I can outline each petal. And what I mean is to come all the way down on the petal and go up. Kind of like you're dancing with your sewing machine. Very fluid, relaxing movement. It's not tense. Shoulders aren't hurting. Hands aren't pushing down. The octaves make this a soothing, calming experience rather than a stressed out, teeth clenching, hand hurting, shoulders hurting experience. Octaves make free motion, child's play, and a lot of fun. It's great for summer if you have grandchildren or little ones at your house and you want to expose them to sewing. You get two handles in the kit as well so that they can hold on to two handles. So are we glad that I outlined? Do you like it better with or without the outline? Does it feel like that's not changing? I guess it is. So did we make a good choice on outlining? You can see I went way out of the outline there, but I'm going to come back and do a couple more. And why am I doing that? Because I want the cover up to tear away easy. I got all kinds of stuff on my table that's falling, and this was like rolling away in front of me. So if you have stuff that starts to move on your table, stop sewing and move your stuff out of the way so you're not distracted. I want less over here because the sun's over there. Been tempted to do more. Now I can, if you do too much over here, then you can go and do more over here. Now I'm just kind of driving or taking a walk over to the monogram. And now I'm going to show you how to monogram. What do you think? You guys like it? Is it pretty? Let's see if I can get a better That's right. It's perfect because this, what I'm embroidering is there. So I'm going to use a zigzag stitch to write summer. But before I do, I'm going to straight stitch over the whole thing. Basically draw a line, draw over it with thread. You liked it better the way it was. Too bad. See, that's what happens when people vote, you know. So I'm outlining the monogram, even though this is a really thin line. And why am I doing that? Because if all of the letters are not going over the yellow, I will do a better job if I'm consistent. So now I'm going to go on the outside of these letters. Up. And this is when I don't normally like to have my foot on it all because it's in my way. There it is. Okay. Now you see why you don't want to cover up with your yellow thread the word that you're monogramming on. Now I'm going to go on the top side of the monogram and outline. Come back in the middle and go around the middle. And this one's going to be the hardest area to get to tear away clean. I'm going around 3 times around that E. Here it's not going to be as big a deal because the cover-up's going to stay underneath the yellow petal. Now we're in an area where we're going to want to move or cut away that cover-up. So I'm going really slow movement, tiny little stitches, cutting through the cover-up. And now you have stitch direction. You want to have your stitch go left to right or at an angle, whatever you decide, you need to be consistent. So if I have my hoop tipped slightly, if I have it straight, the letters are going to be, the stitches are going to all be left to right. And when you do that, it can close up small sections like that. So it's better to tip it slightly so that you get a calligraphy look. When you come to certain curves, the stitch is going to narrow just because of the zigzag stitch swing. And after all of that straight stitch only, now I'm switching to a straight stitch. And I'm using a 2.5 millimeter wide stitch because this is a very small word, and I'm going to start here at the top of the S. So this is my angle, and I'm talking to myself. So you can go like this and go draw an arrow. And that is your horizon line. And you see how they're skewed a little bit, how it's farther away from the word here than it is here. So my hoop is tipped a little bit. And that is the direction of my hemisphere. So I want to, is that the right word, hemisphere? I'm going to come down here. And now I'm going to cover up my stitching. So the knot is going to be locked inside of the monogram. And on this, you think about, if I do an S, do I go down the S, come back up? No, you just go down the S, right? So you're going to go slow. And you are the stitch length. So you sew and you move your hands slow. And you run the machine as slow as you feel the need to get to where you can see that the left swing's hitting the left side of the monogram and the right swing's hitting the right side of the monogram. Keeping in mind that you don't want to change, you don't want to start driving the hoop, which I did start doing. If I can do it, you can certainly lose your train of thought. Some things I do better when I don't talk. You can ask any of my friends, it's rare that I'm not actually talking. So now I'm going to use a straight stitch and just stitch to tie a knot. Not only am I going to do that, but I'm going to go around that S again on both sides. And that's because this S is a freestanding letter all on its own. So I'm completing this part of the monogram. I'm going around the outside of the monogram because it makes the zigzag part feel more accentuated. And we can kind of tidy up our stitches that way as well. Now I'm going to pop over here and go back to the zigzag stitch at a 2.5 millimeter width. Okay. See how off I was? Whew, I almost messed up. We want to keep our stitch direction the right way. Go slow. Oopsie. Should have gone narrower, a little bit too wide. When you go up a letter and then you have to come back down it, you go up fast and you come back down slow. I'm about to do that on this R. No, I'm not. But I am bringing them closer together, trying to hide the fact that I should use a wider width. Okay, straight stitch. Come around. I would have noticed this easier if I didn't have a foot on. I'm just going to take this foot off now. I keep saying it's in the way. It is. We don't need it for free motion with the octi hoops. One way that I can make this not look like a mistake at all is to use a lighter colored thread to go around and outline this. It's the U. I lost track of my U. I don't want to rip it out. My question for you is, does it still look like summer? Am I going to get away with it? Yeah, the zigzagging takes practice. I'm going to go ahead and do what I said because it's good for you to see how to kind of make something look better if you don't want to have to rip it out. Right? So what color thread do you think I could outline this with to make it look good where I messed up, where I didn't have my U a separate letter from my M? You could get your needle or your seam ripper out, and if you ever have to remove a zigzag stitch, you cut your bobbin thread first and try not to cut any of the needle thread. Cut just your bobbin thread, and then you just pull on the needle thread and it will all come out. I'm going to take a chance on this brand of thread being good enough. So this is a lighter shade of yellow. I'm going to see how this works. Or I could go white and have it drop into the towel. Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to create the separation between the U and the M that's now purple. So if I should go white, shouldn't I? I should do white so that the loops will puff up afterward and no one will know. That's what I'm thinking. So you're going to get to find out if I'm right. If I can find a spool of white, which I did. So right here, I got a U, and then there's this stitch going across down there. I got to cover that up. And I can try to clean up. I got to like separate it up here too. So I basically need to make it look like I didn't lose track of where I was and what color thread needs to be in the bobbin. And it's super important right now because we're going to be sewing over a lot of thicknesses of thread. See how I hold the thread as I thread the thread through the machine? This keeps the thread from getting tangled up inside of the machine. So I kind of hold pressure on the thread, run it through, and then it doesn't get loose and loopy inside of the sewing machine. So I want white bobbin thread as well. And I'm almost done, you guys. Almost. I wasn't going to do full projects on the show anymore, but it's so hard for me not to. But I'm going to have to design this same design because I just drew it on, I just drew. And with a pen right on the cover up. For those of you who watched me do it, I actually laid a piece of this fabric underneath. And I just laid the cover up over it, over that fabric, and that's how I created the thing I used. I made 2 of these into 1 petal, and that's kind of how it worked. So I'll draw this and have it digitally in the computer or on our school, in the school. And you can sketch if you have a tablet. You can print on paper and then sketch it, or you can very carefully draw over your screen, like with something really soft, like a marker. The designs that I provide you for free inside of the school. Sorry, I had to sneeze because it's allergy season. You guys would not survive one of my sneezes on camera. So should I use a zigzag stitch or a straight stitch? Should I try drawing a line through there, or should I do little circles? Little circles would hide in the nappy, but that's a tiny little spot to have little circles. So I'm going to outline only here and see what I think. Got the bobbin thread pulled up. Just trying to create a little line in there. And if I feel the need, then I can outline the whole thing. That's really all I needed to do, was right there. I think I'm going for it. I'm going to go all the way around. So slow sewing, and we're on a straight stitch. This is not my normal brand of thread. Sometimes we get the right thread cut, and we can get away with it. This is why you want to buy the thread we sell. That's a spool a thread company gave me at a show. And I got my fingers close because this is really thick. There's a whole lot of thread under there. But I'm not looking at my fingers. I'm looking at where I'm going. And all I'm trying to do is outline the monogram. And that was hard too. I couldn't see the separation between the R and the E. So now we have good separation. And the thread's starting to do that again. The kind of thread that I was using for the monogram and everything else was the polyfast thread on our website. So now you can see the difference between the experience I'm having with polyfast versus whatever this is. The label is off, so I don't know what it is. Also want to go in the center of the E. If I'm not able to cut all that cover up out, it's gonna be so hard to tell because there's gonna be white thread in there now. Yeah, the polyfast thread is awesome. And I do plan on getting all, not all the colors, because there's colors I've never opened. Trying to limit having stuff that we're not actually using. I was thinking about creating a design that uses some of the other colors to get you guys to buy more thread. So we have the S to do here. Pop over. Oh, it's so much worse. Yikes. Another thing you can do is you can go forward, back, and create a heavier stitch. And that's done by running the machine really slow. See how cool that looks? This whole time I had the feed dogs up because I'm feeling them hit my fingernail through the fabric. So you can see that that really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you have feed dogs being able to be lowered or not. Everyone gets to play. And I'm now gonna, the other camera is so out of focus I hesitate to use it. Something just fell off the table. Everything's falling. Must be Claire's show. Talking about myself in the third person. That sounds so funny. Okay. Oops, I turned off my earpiece. So the steps to taking out, it's really not that scientific. I always am trying to save my stabilizer. I'm always trying to save the frog because you can patch it with another piece of the stabilizer. But when you have the hold light under the towel, it's very rare that you can use up the stabilizer that's attached to the hoop. So I'll go ahead and start pulling towards the actual embroidery and see how it's just tearing off. So people ask when to use the cover up. Keep in mind this will never wash out. So if you have the handle of a tennis racket, it has a solid handle on it, then this is great. But if you want to sew the net, now this obviously I have the cover up under there, but I had orange thread laid down. If it was a tennis racket, you wouldn't have anything because you'd want the fabric to show through. In the tennis racket area, you would not want the cover up. So you would go do your outline around the inside of the tennis racket, take the cover up away, and then stitch the tennis racket strings. So it's just a tearing towards the embroidery, coming toward it, spinning it around as you go, always going toward the embroidery. And your just tears off completely clean. Every once in a while you'll have an area like that and you just take your tweezers. Where are my tweezers? and then just pull toward. If you got any little feathery areas of it and you can't get it with your tweezers, you can use a blow dryer and blow dry it on a hot setting, and it will kind of shrink up the vinyl into the embroidery. Making sure that I don't grab one of the loops and pull. There we go. Now there's just a little, I could have done another leaf, huh? Does that look funny? Does it look like the sunflower's wearing a hat? So this is where, this will help you understand better what I'm talking about, the tennis racket area. If you're in the strings, you'll have lots of little gaps. And grabbing the stabilizer, this is an area still that hasn't been cut away. And I want to grab it. So now I'm pulling away from the embroidery with the pin. Come on, baby. It's cut. I just got to grab it without grabbing the towel. Now, after you do that, then you do the same thing. You're pulling, and this is the hold light. See, the hold light is right there. There's the hold light. See that? It's attached to the stick and tear. So the towel just comes right off the hold light because it's a different type of stabilizer. I'm going to do this way. I don't know what happened. I bumped that camera right before we went live, so the focus is so bad. Let's see what you think. So blurry. So you're pulling in toward the embroidery. And you end up with a hole. That circle I had drawn on the cover up. This is the thread that was getting caught. Remember I said something was not letting it move? So one of my bobbin, I must have done a carryover. So what do I mean by that? If you move the hoop, you're also moving the bobbin thread. So you always want to, if you have to move a distance away, and I moved up to the leaf and the bobbin thread went with me and underneath. So it was this little tail of thread and it was getting caught on the bed of the machine. So there you go. What do you think, you guys? Not bad for just drawing something with markers. A nice little towel for the summer. Well, if you like this video, I sure hope you'll hit the like button and share with your friends. And thank you for being patient with me in the beginning when we're having issues. I'll get better at the live. And so it'll be in the VIPs section. I'll give you a pattern and I'll give you one with more than one leaf. And I can now go in and do another leaf at any time by just putting some more stick and tear, which is the frog. Now if I go to pull this away, the adhesive on the stick and tear is connected to the hold light. So this is why when you use the hold light, you will need to replace the entire sheet or section or hooping of the stick and tear. And all of our stabilizers are permanent, non-shrinking. And if you use 100% polyester thread in the needle and the bobbin, it won't shrink either. So even after you wash this, it's still going to look pretty like the day you made it. So you won't be embarrassed. And you won't feel like you need to iron your towels to get everything to lay flat again. So if you like this video, go ahead and hit your like button. And if you've yet to subscribe to my channel, I sure hope you do so today. Go ahead and look at the links in the video. If you're watching this on the replay, there'll be links to my school, to joining the VIP group. You can also support our channel by becoming a member, by hitting the join button. And at any time do super chats and stuff that you can see within there. All of these things are new to my channel. They just gave me all these different ways of supporting the channel. And I love you guys so much. I'll see you next Thursday, and I'm going to try to pop in more often this week. Just, you know, God willing. And if you want to know why I was not as active as I wanted to be this week, you can watch the beginning and see what happened to me this week while I wasn't on with you guys, and know that I'm just going to keep on creating more and more stuff for you. With that, I love you guys so much. See you next week. Bye.